constantly harping on Black Lives Matter. None of the activists from Black Lives Matter have been arrested for anything violent.
Welcome to this week's Wacky Moments of Leftist Extremism. It was a week that polls show President Trump was gaining ground, so the leftist media doesn't know what lies to tell in order to stop that from happening. They did figure out that President Trump has been condemning the violent riots, so CBS tried to explain that people lighting things on fire, well, that's just pretty darn peaceful.
Protests were mostly peaceful earlier in the evening and focused on calls for the city's mayor, Ted Wheeler, to resign. A fire was set near the mayor's home.
Yeah, burning stuff in public streets. That's just so peaceful. MSNBC's Joy Reid acknowledges that there is violence, but she continues to downplay and excuse the months of rioting, insisting without evidence from anywhere that Black Lives Matter hasn't been arrested for anything violent.
Constantly harping on Black Lives Matter, none of the activists from Black Lives Matter have been arrested for anything violent.
Really? I mean, there's a load of examples, but let's use one from the exact same day as her broadcast.
One of the leaders of the Des Moines Black Lives Matter movement is in the Johnson County Jail this morning facing 10 charges after an arrest following protest in Iowa City. He's 24-year-old Matthew Bruce. Right now he faces 9 charges of assault on a peace officer with intent of injury.
Just 9 charges of assault, but
None of the activists from Black Lives Matter have been arrested for anything violent.
Don't expect an MSNBC host to have a clue about actual news. In fact, advertisers must know that they give viewers a headache. Reid was brought to you by Advil. Please call them and tell them that they're actually supporting some deep, long-lasting pain. CNN switched modes in the middle of the week and decided that since President Trump has been condemning violent rioting since May, well, that's actually an endorsement of violence because, well, I don't know. Here's a CNN delusion.
Yes, we have seen peaceful protests across the country. Yes, we have seen violence erupt in some cities. And yes, we have seen the president try to paint all of it with the same brush. Why? Because it plays right into his hands. He knows that. That's why he tries to capitalize on it and why he tries to encourage it. Instead of condemning violence, President Trump is endorsing it. The president is arguing that he is the law and order candidate, but he clearly supports neither. He says he is the candidate who can combat violence, but he isn't against violence. He's against black violence.
Ah, yes, the president's opposition to violence is racist. The leftist media is so eager to criticize the president on law and order that it can't even perform a legitimate fact check now. Here's NBC this week.
President Trump has often repeated the same claim.
The top 10 most dangerous cities in America are run by Democrats. The 20 most dangerous are Democrat-run. Worse than Honduras, worse than Afghanistan.
The reality check. Homicide rates are up in many cities run by both Democrats and Republicans. Up 13% in Republican-led Miami. Up 34% in Democrat-led New York. Up 29% in Republican-run Tulsa through June. Up 31% in Democrat-led Phoenix through July.
Okay, homicides are up along with rioting, but that doesn't mean the top 20 most dangerous cities aren't led by Democrats. In fact, legitimate studies show that they are, but NBC doesn't check that fact.
The president claims this is pretty much only a problem in Democratic cities. Is that accurate?
Well, the data that we have right now says that that's not accurate. We're seeing about a 25% increase in all cities.
Figuring out if crime was on the rise was not what the network said you had set out to do.
President Trump has often repeated the same claim.
The top 10 most dangerous cities in America are run by Democrats.
That failed fact check brought to you by Liberty Mutual. Call them to ensure that they don't continue to support fake fact checks. It's obvious that the leftist media doesn't like facts. On Tuesday this week, the Big Three network newscasts completely blacked out Speaker Nancy Pelosi's decision that, rules don't apply to her and she should go get her hair done in San Fran while not wearing a mask despite COVID closures on salons. So even with videotape evidence, they gave no coverage on Tuesday. But on Wednesday, they all covered it when she blamed it on the business and called it a setup.
Getting her hair done indoors, violating San Francisco restrictions. Tonight, why she says she was set up.
Pelosi said the salon told her she could be inside.
They said, well, we're able to accommodate people one person at a time, and that we can set up that time. I trusted that. As it turns out, it was a setup.
Back now with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, accused of a double standard. Speaker Pelosi seen getting her hair done inside a salon in San Francisco despite COVID restrictions keeping them closed. The owner releasing the video, Pelosi calling it a setup.
They're only interested when they can discuss Pelosi's defense, which is to blame the business. I mean, why should she know things like laws? She's only a lawmaker. Okay, so it's now time to put on the tinfoil hats for the most convoluted twist of logic of the week, and that goes to CNN's Situation Room, and they win hands down for explaining that growing up in America has caused people like black police officers and Reverend Jesse Jackson to be racist against their own racial group.
You know, like, didn't Jesse Jackson say that when he looks behind him and he sees a group of young black males walking behind him, he's more scared than when he sees a group of white youths walking behind him? Does that make him a racist?
Dia, go ahead.
I think the Jesse Jackson quote did happen. It was many years ago.
Okay.
But it's also true that racism is an idea, right? So anyone can have a racist idea. So if you're Jesse Jackson, if you've grown up in America, which is sort of invented around ideas around race, and black people being lesser than white people, then perhaps Jesse Jackson has sort of internalized those ideas about black people.
Yeah, that's the kind of analysis you get on the Situation Room. Let's get out of that situation and head over to the MRC store. You can pick up some great conservative gear there. Also, please check out mrctv.org for some great blogs and more videos. And please like, comment, and subscribe to these videos on Facebook and YouTube. I'm Eric Shiner for MRC TV. We'll see you again next week with some more leftist media wackiness.